is straight out of Nazi playbook. If you should please subscribe to the channel. We'd love it to, have you watch some of the videos we've done before and also support us that way. It's straight out of Nazi playbook, and it can only come from one ethnicity in Nigeria and some others that are trying to be like them. This young man decided to do what he probably thinks is maybe the most important thing he's done in his life, which is absolute nonsense, and just went on to essentially regurgitate what Joseph Goebbels would have, said. Essentially repeat what Hitler would have thought about. Well, you see, as bad as that thing was, at least Hitler and Goebbels were in their own land. They were Germans. These are people who roamed the streets like vagabonds, unable to settle in a particular place and call it home, and then go to other people's places to determine how things should be, because for some reason they think that they have an idea how the world works, and in reality, they don't. And in case you think I'm wrong, please take a listen to some of these things that this clown said. I don't even want to mention his name because it's that unnecessary. However, let me say this. It is not a one-man thing. It's not like, it's just a person saying it. It's just one person. No. It's not one person. It's a cultural outlook. It's a cultural worldview. It doesn't mean everybody there thinks like that. There will be exceptions. But every rule has exceptions, right? There will be exceptions. It's important for me to mention that because it also guides you to know how you are going to talk to people. Okay? Because people, the way they move, you just know everybody in their family doesn't have sense. But they are good people. They are sensible people. All right? However, it's also the matter that this thing is a cultural outlook. It's a worldview. It's a way they see the world. And it's something that I've, in recorded history, I've seen patterns since the 1930s. And it's a shame that we're still dealing with that in 20. You expect people to have evolved. Even caterpillar knows how to become butterfly. These guys don't know how to evolve. It's a shame. Take a listen to this, please.
Having meetings with us, telling us that we non-Yoruba should stay away from the election. That we have no right to choose who becomes governor in Lagos. And I was like, what? How would you tell me that? I employ people in Lagos. I pay my taxes in Lagos. I have my business in Lagos. I'm almost a decade in Lagos. And you're telling me I can't decide? I don't have a voice. So I should let you, who have no business, you who have no sense of, no business, you are not educated, to decide for me who have bigger stakes. I have bigger stakes than you. You are an indigene, but I have bigger stakes because I've invested here. I have bigger stakes because I have a business here. I have bigger stakes because I have a second address here. So why would you tell me that simply because you are culturally affiliated to a community, to a land? Some of you are not even called Lagosians. You are not indigenous of Lagos, but because you are Yorubas, you don't have bigger stakes than me. Nigeria is the umbrella under which I'm operating. So I have stakes in Lagos. I can run for office. I can vote for whoever I believe is the best. That's why we have elections. That's why the way it works. Those guys in the north, even though they are uneducated, they decide your president because they have numbers. So if we have numbers, we stay in Lagos. Who stays and who leaves. Not by your.
We're going to listen to this. Who raises people? How do you get to the point where you can talk like this? It's like you don't understand the consequences. Like you don't understand basic courtesy. You're saying, let's start from the scratch. This is going to be a bit long. Stay with me. So you say you live in Lagos, you should be able to run to be governor of Lagos. So here's the thing. The Nigerian Constitution grants you as a citizen the right to run for office. And nobody has ever stopped anybody from running. You will not get there, but you will run. You cannot get there. If you like, run for your lifetime, you will not get there. But that you cannot run, I cannot even tell you cannot. If I say you cannot run, that would be unconstitutional. I will be flouting the law itself. I want to tell you one example. This happened in 2021. A man called Bob Okoroji. He's a lawyer. He lives in Lagos. Lagos-based constitutional lawyer, Mr. Bob Okoroji. Yeah. And he said at the time that he wanted to be governor of Lagos. He ran in 2011 and 2015 under the platform of ABGA. It's quite interesting that you would want to become governor of Lagos State, but you do it in an Igbo party, even though you're supposed to be leaving Yoruba land. It makes no sense. Again, cultural evolution. You guys are blessed. Let me not say anything bad. This guy tried to become governor in 2011 in Lagos. Did anybody stop him? No. You can run. And that's the thing. When people keep saying, we stay, no, we should not run, we must be able to run. It's not that they are not telling you that they want to run. And I want to say this to Yoruba people because a lot of our young people also need to listen to this. They are trying to make you feel like some people are against them running so that you can lower your guards and then allow them have your votes in order to be able to get what they really want. Nobody stops anybody from running. You just cannot get to where you are going. You just be, you can run. Nobody can stop you. In other words, you're not really talking about what you're talking about. It's not about your right to run. You're talking about your right to win, which will never happen. You cannot blackmail people into voting for you. You cannot blackmail people into leading them, especially when you lack the capacity, as can be seen where you come from. You can run, but you cannot determine the outcomes. You have opportunities. You have equality of opportunities. You can do whatever, but you can't have equality of outcomes. You cannot determine the outcomes. If you like, you can cry from now till thy kingdom come. You will not get where you are running to, but you can run. I assure you. Secondly, he talked about the natural selection. Again, Darwinism. So the idea basically is that you are the stronger species, and you're looking around like, who are these people? Who is talking? You are this close to something I don't want to talk about. Like, how are you stronger? Again, this is more propaganda than anything else. The reason I speak like this is because words have power. Words mean something. If a person says some things in the air and you don't say something, people pick it up. And if you don't understand, if you have teenage kids, you probably need to learn as much as you can so that you can actually hear something happen in Yoruba land. It has happened in the north before. This is how they were speaking nonsense in 1966. And I've said it before. When you talk about the crisis of 1945, it happened because of a statement of one man. People were killed in the north because of what one man said in Lagos. The man is Charles Onyema. He made a statement at the Island Club in Lagos. He said that the Igbo domination of Nigeria is only a question of time. And I'm quoting him verbatim. The Igbo domination of Nigeria is only a question of time. He said that in 1945. As soon as he said it, somehow the information got to the north. They killed these people in the north. You cannot just be stupid like this. There are consequences. There are people who don't speak English like I do. They won't actually. Things can flip very easily. People are fiercely territorial, including the clown who is talking. Go to their region. They are very, and listen, there's nothing wrong with being territorial or with being, beyond even being territorial. These guys are fiercely ultra conservatives. They don't allow anything, even within their own ethnicity. From village, forget town, village, from village to village. And land is one of the things that they guard with their life. They even worship it. You who know how important that thing is to you in your culture, why would you go to another person's place? I'm talking to them about natural selection. that the stronger species will come. And then you have the audacity to tell people that your own grandfather also came here. When they came here, did they meet your own grandfather? In other words, forget the concept of ownership. We're all tenants. So I can come to your land and say, forget about ownership. We're not owners. We're all tenants. All of us are just passing by, But this person is fiercely guarding what belongs to him back at home. Talk to me about the Fulani man who has money, who is not a bad person, right? He's not, of course, it's not every Fulani that is into banditry now. A good Fulani man has his car, maybe even has a ranch. Tell him that he should go there and allow this person to rent. He wants to build a ranch in the east. You should rent that place to him. You hear what you hear. And I'm not saying he should do it or not. I'm just giving you an idea how open these people can be. You understand the value of land. How you talk to people and say things that nobody really owned it. After all, your great-grandfather also migrated to this place. When they migrated, where were your own fathers? When, and I've said this several times, because if people's fathers were conquering cities, taking territories, entering into spaces, building cities and establishing empires, what is it that your own fathers were doing? They were trying to determine whether they should evolve or not, and clearly they did not. I hope you did not hear any ethnicity, because if the shoe fits, just wear it with pride. October 2023, Vanguard newspaper. We won't accept a non-indigenous as mayor of Aba, native tell Governor Oti. And one of the statements they made in this news report was that Abia is not a no man's land. And they were talking in respect of an mayor of Aba. Don't want it because they're non-indigenous. But you cross streams and rivers and valleys and gullies, arrive here and tell me, Chibi, your own great-grandfather too got here at a particular time. Well, it didn't get here, so I can give it to you. Land is a very finite resource. It doesn't grow. It doesn't multiply. Whatever it is, it's fixed. It's a fixed asset. You learn that in economics. It's a fixed asset. You don't cut from it and give it away, then come back and multiply. That's not how land works. Whatever people get, they hold on to it. And just because we democratize things in our own part of the country does not mean that retards should come into the land and tell us about natural selection. Unless, of course, they're talking about natural selection happening in their own part of the country, which has not really successfully happened, to be honest. He has some more terrible things to say, by the way. And I want to say this to people, like, listen, if your goal in life is to lead Lagos, I was talking to, let me finish that thought process. If your goal in life is to win election in other people's land, your job in life is to study the culture of those people. Nobody cares about where you're coming from. Because if where you're coming from means anything, you'll not be here. Imagine me going to the UK now and telling them that natural selection, I'm going to outbreed them. Listen, even if you want to outbreed them, must you be stupid enough to say it? The same mistakes it's not even a mistake at this point. You sit in 45 with Oyema, you sit in 66 with Igbo people in the north, taunting them, saying exactly things like this. In the north, across the north, in Kaduna, in Kano, in Sokoto, just insulting people until those ones had enough. They had enough after 4 months. See, you don't respect Yoruba people. When we had issues with these people, it was 10 years. 1938 to 1948, before Yoruba people responded. 1948, 10 years, because we're doing good people, great nation. We are still doing, which is okay. I like our own intellectual, whatever, but you know whether I read book. In the north, it was 4 months. The way they killed Igbos, the one that did not even taunt them will also suffer. Because now that they are taunting everybody and insulting everybody, you don't see the smart ones speaking up now. Well, maybe some of them are beginning to speak up, but more of you need to speak up. Because this thing that they are cooking, when the food don't finally ready, you go chop. everybody, you that you were saying that doesn't concern me. You never stop anybody. You not be writing me stupid nonsense like the one clown wrote here earlier when he said, I'm disappointed. I'm like, I don't even know you. Add to anything I do. What concerns me about the father? What do you mean disappointed in? What kind of nonsense do people even say? The point I'm trying to make is that whether you liked it, whether you speak on it, whether you actually supported them or not, whether you are sitting on the fence, you don't know where you're going to fall because you're Humpty Dumpty. The point is, when this fool's done, finish, you go chop. Listen to the second clip. 1 second, please. And the sad part is that you hear the elders who they talk, it goes sick, it goes big, it goes share. It's just a shame. Jeez. And there's a reason for it. The reason is very simple. If you want to understand why a person can be like this and be repeating the same mistakes of his forebears, you understand number one, it's not a mistake. I should even say that it's not a mistake. It's a culture. That's number one. So you expect that to happen. Okay? Number two is a product of stagnation in cultural evolution. In other words, you are stuck. You are like a butterfly who is fighting with a moth, you're like, not butterfly, you are like a caterpillar fighting with the butterfly. Telling the butterfly what you want to do natural selection. You're not even metamorphosed. There are 4 stages, right? There's egg, there's larva, there's pupa, there's adult. You are between egg and larva. Never even reach pupa. You're going to tell butterflies how to fly and talk about natural selection. You have not been selected. You are still like with the major, like you don't even know what's happening in your life. I'm doing all this public service because there are people that will hear this thing, and this thing is going viral. People actually tagged me. A number of people tagged me today to see it. This thing will go viral. They will interpret it in other people's languages. Do you know how the crisis in the North in 1966, do you know how it started? August, September. Do you know how it started? Apart from the fact that, just quick history, we'll go back to the clip. When Northern officers began to kill Igbo officers and Eastern officers in July, inside July 29, 1966, side in Abeokuta, moved to Ibadan, the North, all over the place. Northern officers just unaliving, Igbos. Officers. It was just officers at the time. Of course, at some point, they also killed, which is unfortunate, killed civilians. What then happened was that people returned home, some people, not everybody, because they didn't have the mass exodus at the time. People returned home, and when they got the information in the East, they began to kill Northerners in the East. And I know they omitted that in your own Nigerian history. I understand. Even me, I did not know. We have to read. If you read this book called 2 books, The Nigerian Civil War by John Desenjo and Crisis and Conflict in Nigeria by A.H.M. Green. Read those 2 books. You will see crazy things. Crazy things happen. But here, do you know how the Northerners heard about it that led to the killing of like pure killings, which is, again, nothing makes killings cool. It's terrible. What happened was that there were some white people in Obolafo who were going to the north. They witnessed the killings of Northerners in the east. Through them, the news got to Benin Republic. Radio Cotonou broadcast the news. The guys in Nigeria caught it, particularly in the north. They then interpreted the news into English and French. Into English and Hausa, because the original news was in French from Benin Republic. They interpreted it into English and Hausa and then broadcast it on their radio. Then the Northerners began to kill Igbos. Now forget what officers began to kill regular people. Listen, it doesn't matter how it happened. What happened was terrible. But I'm just telling you that Nigeria's history, we only talk about what happened. We never talk about why. And if you never ask the question why, you are not better than the clown walking the streets just disturbing the world and being a nuisance. You've got to be able to question things. And if you understood why, you not have raised people like this in 2026, who probably has a child, and I feel sorry for whoever this person gives birth to. Because what's the level of intelligence that person will have? If you go to another person's land and you're telling them that Your fathers also got here years ago, and there'll be natural selection. You'll be breeded. You know what? So it doesn't look as if I'm even making it up. Listen to the rest of this strange, because this guy is an interesting person. I don't want to say anything bad, but take a listen. His name is Jerry Wobodo. Somebody asked me what's his name. His name is Jerry Wobodo. And he's not alone. To be clear, he's not individual. I've heard things like this, but it's just to have the boldness to make this video and put it on social media is actually quite crazy. But take a listen to this. Domination. All right, we're going to stop here for now, and I had to play that because of the break we had, and I thank you very much for staying tuned. You were listening to a video we did a while back. I'll keep playing that video from time to time because it's important to know that this is how people think. And like I said in that video, it's not a one-person idea. It's not like, oh, that guy just has this. It's just one person. The people don't think like that now. Whenever people are not like that, it's a lie. It's a cultural outlook. And the crazy part is that it's actually born out of the work of the so-called intellectuals. And even, this has definitely changed today's topic. So let me just say something very quickly. By the way, the video itself on YouTube, Busuyo's YouTube channel, the video is titled Uncovering the Igbo Nazi Agenda. All right. Uncovering the Igbo Nazi Agenda and the Nazi Logic of Modern Igbo Expansionists. It's a mouthful, but just type Busuyo's, Nazi Agenda, Igbo Nazi Agenda, you'll find it there. Here's the point. And I want to quickly say this before we go on, because people say something like, you talk about Igbo people, do you hate Igbo people? I don't hate anybody. In fact, nobody is worth that energy. Like, nobody is worth me having to exude or experience the hate energy. It's just a waste of time and waste of life for me. So that's number one. I can't be wasting my life over 18 people, and nobody is even worth that. That's one. Number two, I think it's important to say that it's not like Igbo people in time past originally are just bad people. No. It's just that they're at a different level of development. They were and they still are. And this is not whether it's good or bad, it's just different. It's, if I tell you, for instance, that somebody is in primary school, the question is not whether the person is bad being in primary school. He's in school, but it's in primary school. The problem you will have is comparing a primary school pupil with a postgraduate student or a postdoctoral student, because in your mind, since they're both in school, they're all the same. You'll be kidding yourself. Nigeria is a potpourri of different ethnicities and different classes, and people acting as if they're the same level. In Nigeria, you have cultures that they are graduate level. You have undergraduate, you have high school, secondary school, you have elementary, you have kindergarten, you have nursery, you have children. The assumption that we always have is we are all at the same level. Let's just build this country. It's a joke. It's a lie. It will never work. And the reason is not because I am pessimistic. It's because I see what is happening. I don't know why we are not seeing it. How do you think anybody who comes from Ilere will open their mouth? Ilere means that, Ilere is actually deeper than just a good home. I'm talking about Ilere as in Ibi, Omotoni, Bitonina. Will open their mouth and say things like, I'm in your space, but I'm going to take over the place because I have natural selection. I'm going to outbid you. Culturally, he doesn't even think what he's saying is wrong. Because you hear the most educated person from where he's coming from, they say the same thing. It's because they have not evolved to that point. And to be honest, sometimes I just pity people like, how can you be at this level? You're like very close to cavemen. They deserve pity. I'm sure you see them every day on this program. You will say things, you're like, and what's the big deal about it? It's not that. The issue is, I am the one who is wrong for assuming that they should understand things the way I do. They don't have that frame of reference. They've not evolved to that point. When you talk about assimilation, for instance, they say, why should you do that? We have a constitution. We have a constitution. The reason, and you are saying, but wait, this thing, we've been doing it for centuries. That's you. That's because maybe you're even a professor now. You're no longer a postgraduate student. You're already lecturing. This person is still in kindergarten. You want to tell that child that there's something called further math or pure and applied mathematics. Go to more 2 plus 2. Nigeria, we have to be more serious and more realistic about the composition of this country. And I'm going to read something. I think the title has even changed because of this whole the break we had. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and read Awo's book. The point is, we are not the same. Is that a problem? No. Does that mean break up everything? No. For instance, if you go to, most universities, well, where I come from, whether it's Unilag or Ife or Ibadan, you see, and I think maybe most schools are like that too. You see, of course, the university environment, but you also see secondary school in that university. Then you see staff school, right, for the children of the staff, right. The question is not to say, should we remove the staff school, the nursery and primary school, from the university campus so that we can know that we're in a university and just leave only undergraduates and postgraduate students? Should we move the secondary schools out of it because we want to be clear? The point is not to move anything out of the school. The secondary school should be there. The primary school should be there because the children of the staff they need to have a place to also learn. But if you are the VC of that school, make no mistakes about the fact that there are different types of schools within that school. All right? And that you're not going to treat a PG student the way you're going to treat a primary school student. Nigeria is full of all kinds of people. And I dare say, and I'm not even the first person to say it, to be clear, many books, I've read some of the books here too. They say the same thing. We just want to be politically correct by saying we are all the same. We are not. We have different levels of enlightenment, different levels of development. Some people literally are next to cavemen. It's just, apart from using stones to create fire, there's really nothing big, I didn't mention anybody, but you can just observe. Nigeria actually forced people into civilization. Anyway, I think we should just read because of what we listened to. Earlier we were talking about the FG economic reform, and we also have something from Katsina. We're going to do that later. All right, I think that would be the best way to do this. Someone on YouTube, Rema Egma, says, when the food is done, you are above eating. No. The point is, I'm not cooking nonsense. Your fathers are the one who cook nonsense before they give birth to you, and you have also taken up the job of cooking nonsense. You will eat, you'll be full, you give your children to eat too. You have a generational legacy of stupidity. You go to other people's land and be teaching them rubbish. You say, I have right, I'm going to outbreed you. If you were properly raised, you will know that is stupid. But you guys are not properly raised. I'm talking to the one from Voice of Courage, selected speeches of Awolowo. By the way, you should get Awo's book. Awo's books. If you go to Redomi Books on Telegram, Redomi is spelled Redomi, Redomi Books, all right, on Telegram, you will find different sections and categories. One of them is Awolowo's books. If you can, I think you should get all the books, all right? But if you're looking for some of the speeches they've been published in 3 books. There's Voice of Courage, Voice of Wisdom, and Voice of Reason, all right? This one is Voice of Courage. And I'm just going to read something to you here to give you an idea how long we've been in this soup in this country and the way to get out of it. So let's read this. This was from a lecture delivered at the University of Lagos on Friday, 24th February 1967. It's titled Constitution Making in Developing Countries. In many parts of the world, the search for a suitable constitution is a perennial exercise. One second, please. I want to see if it's this one. So there's another book, I think it's even deeper. If you really want to get the full scope of what we're about to read, this is just a speech. But if you're looking for the full scope, you're going to have to read this book called Thoughts on the Nigerian Constitution by Papa. He goes deep into that. He did that work while he was in prison. All right. He researched all the countries of the earth, all the countries. And then he came up with what he believed to be the right constitution for the kind of society that Nigeria is. I still think what he said should be followed at some point. And not because of any other thing, but because it was the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do. And, people sometimes hate genius, just because they have nothing to do with it. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why where we are today. I'm going to change the audio source so we can just get into this stuff and not have any distractions at all. Just give me a second, please. So, 1 second. I think we're here. Good. Sorry about that. So let's get into this. Constitution making in developing countries, from a lecture delivered at University of Lagos on Friday, 24th February 1967. In many parts of the world, the search for a suitable constitution is a perennial exercise. There was something I was saying earlier, I did not finish that thought. When I said, it's not that the people are bad. I have to finish my thought, please, before I read. It's not that evil people are bad people. There are two things that I think they have, whether it's going for them or not going for them is their business. Number one is they're at a particular level of development. You can make up what it is, whether it's advanced or elementary or intermediate, whatever you want to say, it's okay. Depends on what you see. Okay, I won't tell you, at least not now. They're at a certain level of development. Number two, they were thrust into the concept of Western civilization in such a way that the people who eventually became the intellectuals in that place made up something that they gave to the generality of the people, which has now become their culture. And that's why when you read books by Nwafọ, for instance, or you read Kingsley, Nwafọ wrote a book on Zikism. There's another book, there's another, I can't remember his biography or autobiography. Then there's one by Kingsley Mbadiwe that wrote in 1989. Then read Zeke's works to find themselves, and while doing that, asserting their superiority to every other group, which of course is a product of inferiority complex. And then tell everybody that they're better. So the point is, they were the ones who taught the generality of the people how to think. If you read the book Nigeria and the Second World War by G.O. Olusanya, he went deep into analyzing how everybody looked up to people like Zeke. All right. And because everybody thought, okay, you had gone to school, you could teach us how to do things. So whatever they told the people was what the people believed. And I will mention something similar in his book, My March Through Prison. In the final chapter, he talked about how when he was made the Ashiwaju, he had to come to terms with something fundamentally different about the Yoruba and other groups. Whilst people look up to other groups and just follow, lap up his pee from the floor. There's a video where somebody, I don't know whether it was a pee, whether it was his pee, but essentially people were lapping it up. So much for, we don't bow for anybody. Anyway, while people do that and follow, this is not to say 100% will follow. Definitely, you're going to have, outliers, but exception doesn't nullify the rule. You get what I mean? Or you like the Northerners who, particularly the Hausa Fulani, because of their own feudal structure, they just follow the leader, which is what you still see up until today. The Yoruba people are a bit difficult to handle in that sense. Okay, the reason is because it's not that they don't follow leaders; they do follow leaders, but they tend to question the leaders. They tend to ask. So you're wondering, how do you lead people like this? Okay, so when you say this is what it is, okay, they're not doing it in order to get you off, but they want to understand where you're coming from because they want to have like an informed, opinion or understanding of what you're saying. The point I'm trying to make is this: when you read books from the 50s, 60s, 70s into the 80s, written by Igbo writers and what have you, what you notice is that they became the ones who were showing the people how to move around in the world, right? And the people assumed, as a matter of fact, from 1930s, to be honest, from West African Parliament in 1937, the people assumed that these ones had gone to school, they should be able to teach us stuff. So they're the ones who told them that constitutionality is what you can do. You have rights to the constitution, you do this. They just became the ones who eventually midwifed stupidity at a very, very wholesale level. And I'm very angry. I know I'm angry. I'm angry because of the video we listened to. But it's the truth. You have to be very stupid at a wholesale level to have different people regurgitate the same ridiculous talking points. Anyway, let's read now. Now I've said what I want to say on that. There are other reasons, but that's not today's topic. Back to Awolowo. In many parts of the world, the search for a suitable constitution is a perennial exercise. Because of the effect for good or evil which the working of a constitution is bound to have on the lives of the entire people of a country, and because of the love of power on the part of various individuals and groups in a society, a disproportionately large number of people always feel called upon and competent to prescribe the requisite formula for a suitable constitution. It does not occur to such people that the making of a constitution is a job for experts, and that it requires as much specialized knowledge and skill as the making of a bridge or of a roadworthy motor vehicle. They believe that the only qualifications which they need to have are patriotism, general education, and the urge to power and group partisanship. With the result that in any country where the search for a new constitution is in progress, there are as many constitutional prescriptions and as many principles or lack of principles underlying them as there are articulate group interest. It is my considered opinion that no suitable and satisfactory constitution can be confidently evolved in this haphazard and free-for-all fashion. I have used the word confidently advisedly. If a suitable constitution emerged from such a chaotic and inexpert approach, it would be the result of accident, pure and simple, not of confident planning and expectation. Please stay with me. We're going somewhere today. Before Bacon put up his imprimatur on the method of induction, mankind had depended for everything he did on trial and error and the rule of thumb. But since his time, the tools of observation, empiricism, analysis, classification, synthesis, and generalization have been thoroughly forged and perfected and can be confidently used in the investigation of any phenomenon or in the search for solution to any problem, be it in the fields of natural or social sciences. Mankind has now reached a stage in its development when it will be inexcusable ignorance, plain stupidity, and unpardonable dishonesty on the part of any society or community to adopt an unscientific approach to any of its problems. I am fully aware that the political scientists have been chary of making generalizations. What they call political theories are mere analysis, classifications, and definitions of past and existing political institutions. They have never gone so far as to deduce laws or principles of general validity, which can be applied to new situations by practicing politicians or by those engaged in the task of drawing up a constitution for any given country. Bitan Loshi is not there, but I need to read this one. We are reading. Man, which is the central subject of social sciences, it is argued, is unpredictable and imponderable. He does not, for instance, lend himself to the rigid formation and unchangeably fixed behavior of the solar system. Well said, but in spite of the egregious and erratic use of his power of choice or of decision, this is so because, but in spite of the egregious and erratic use of his power of choice or of decision, man is subject to and governed by immutable social laws. This is so because the universe, of which the world in which we live forms a part, is a cosmos. In this ordered system, it can be postulated without fear of contradiction. Are you not proud of our just reading the thing where Arrow they write? Now your father be this so, now our papa be this so. Let's continue reading. This is so because the universe, of which the world in which we live forms a part, is a cosmos. In this ordered system, it can be postulated without fear of contradiction that for every specified effect, there is a given cause, and that like causes produce like effects, both in the organic and inorganic world of matter, as well as in the still unfathomed depth of the human mind. The law of supply and demand holds good, and economists do not hesitate to declare and insist on such law in spite of interference and unpredictable frictions which man has consciously or unconsciously, ignorantly or deliberately brought into play with a view to thwarting the law. We know for a truth that any individual or group who persistently violates the law of supply and demand will in long run suffer the dire consequences of such violations. Similarly, any society which persistently violates political laws or principles, whether such laws are recognized and known or not, is beside the point, will not in the long run escape the grievous consequences of its ignorant or deliberate violations. But political scientists have needs to assume a much bolder and more scientific role than political theorists and philosophers have done hitherto. By the careful and correct employment of the inductive method, they should be prepared to make generalizations wherever possible. Undoubtedly, man in his blind
caprice and self-interest may falsify and stultify such generalizations. Even so, it is my considered view that if the generalizations are validly made, they can only be falsified and stultified in the short run. In the long run, the political principles enunciated will, like the law of supply and demand, be verified and triumphant. Definitions. With these introductory remarks, I will now proceed to set out in as clear and authoritative terms as possible the definitions and meanings of some operative words. These words are not only in current use, but also, both through ignorance and deliberate distortion, have acquired false meanings and applications, with the result that their precise and true connotations are not generally known and understood. Whenever the word constitution is mentioned, we quickly conjure up in our minds the picture of a special legal document which contains various provisions relating to 1. The organs of government together with their characteristics and the mode of establishing them; 2. The powers and functions of such organs, their relationship inter se and with the public at large; and 3. The enforceable rights and duties of the citizen. Indeed, Wade and Phillips say that by a constitution is normally meant a document having a special legal sanctity which sets out the framework and the principal functions of the organs of government of a state and declares the principles governing the operations of those organs. But a constitution need not be and has not always been in writing. Primitive and illiterate societies have no written constitutions or laws, nor did most countries of Africa before the advent of European rule. Up till today, British constitution is only partly written, so is the constitution of New Zealand. Excuse me. What then is a constitution? According to the authors of the Shorter Oxford English Dictionary, constitution is defined as 1. The mode in which a state is constituted or organized; 2. The system or body of fundamental principles according to which a nation's or body politic is constituted or governed. Here, a distinction must be drawn between constitution and government and between state and nation. Among the members of the general public, constitution and state are respectively regarded as synonymous with government and nation. Strictly speaking, they are not. Government means the body of persons charged with the duty of governing a state. A cursory comparison between the meanings of constitution and government makes the distinction clear and indubitable. Indeed, the distinction is so sharp that it is erroneous in serious discussions to speak of federal or unitary government. A state has been defined by Salmond as an association of human beings established for the attainment of certain ends. Keating's definition is more explicit than Salmond's and distinguishes a state more clearly from other human associations like partnerships, limited liability companies, clubs, and so on. It runs as follows. A state is an association of human beings whose numbers are at least considerable, occupying a defined territory, and united with the appearance of permanence for political ends, for the achievement of which certain governmental institutions have been evolved. On the other hand, according to 3 distinguished authorities, a nation is defined as 1. Shorter Oxford English Dictionary, a distinct race or people characterized by common descent, language, or history, usually organized as a separate political state and occupying a definite territory. 2. Salmond, a group of persons who feel that they are distinct from others on grounds of culture, language, and sometimes common ancestry. 3. Keating, a community of persons linked either by their historical development, common speech, or common social customs, or several of these criteria, in such a way that such persons will still tend to cohere even if separated under different governments. From these definitions of state and nation, 4 important points emerge. First, a state may consist of a number of nations, as in the USSR, India, Nigeria, and Switzerland. Second, a nation may be divided into a number of states, as in ancient Greece, and as in the case of the Ewe-speaking people in Ghana and Togo, the Kurd-speaking people in USSR, Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and Syria, the Greek-speaking people in modern Greece and Cyprus, the German-speaking people in Western Germany and Eastern Germany, or the Yoruba-speaking people in Nigeria, Benin, and Togo, or Hausa-speaking people in Nigeria, Ghana, Benin Republic, and so on and so forth. Third, a nation may be coextensive with a state, as in Portugal and Italy. Fourth, whilst a nation need not have political ends in order to maintain its cohesion, unity, and corporate existence, a state must. In other words, whilst it is imperative that the elements or objectives for the cohesion and continued corporate existence of a state must be consciously organized and continuously sustained by the members of the state, all that a nation needs for the preservation of its cohesion and corporate continuance are already ingrained at birth as unconscious, powerful tendencies in the members of the national group and nurtured by many self-sustaining cultural ties and sentiments. It is generally agreed that the phrase developing country is euphemistic either in current use to distinguish an economically backward and underdeveloped country from an economically developed and advanced one. The chief common feature of all backward or underdeveloped or developing countries is extreme poverty. For better understanding and near mathematical accuracy, economists have chosen a more or less arbitrary criterion for identifying backward or, by the way, before we go into another kidney of economics, we all understand, we've talked about this thing a lot. That's why I'm not necessarily reading or to explain, because we've talked about the difference between country and nation and how Nigeria is a country and how Yoruba is a nation. One second, please. Which is why every time we have sessions here, we talk about Yoruba land, our nation, and Nigeria, our country. The fact that we are connected by ethnicity, by ancestry, by common language, common culture, and Nigeria doesn't have anything like that. Nigeria is not a nation. Okay, Nigeria doesn't have. If you go by the three definitions that Papa, put in here, there's nothing that makes it look as if we have a nation called Nigeria. If I'm really being serious. By the way, I'm not saying this because I want to break up Nigeria. I'm saying this because I need Nigeria to restructure based on reality rather than based on assumptions. Okay? So when you hear National Broadcasting Commission, it should that's why you also notice, like, you look at your acronyms, your government agencies, either you have National Kinikon or Nigerian Kinikon. Now it's very confusing when you see NBC. You don't know whether it's Nigerian Broadcasting Commission or National Broadcasting Commission. Because you see on that one, you see NCC, Nigerian Communications Commission, like it's all over the place. N could mean Nigeria, it could mean national. I think it should just be Nigerian because Nigeria is not a nation. And the point essentially is that if you look at the Oxford definition, a nation is a distinct race or people characterized by common descent. We don't have that in Nigeria. Language or history, usually organized as a separate political state and occupying a definite territory. You can say that for Yoruba people, right? The other one, Salmon says, a group of persons who feel that they are distinct from others on grounds of culture, language, and sometimes common ancestry. And then the last one, a community of persons linked either by their historical development, common speech, or common social customs, or several of these criteria, in such a way that such persons will still, I like this part, will still tend to cohere, even if separated under different governments. So even if you separate Yoruba people, and you have the French, and you have the German, and you have the English, taking different parts, they will still identify as Yoruba people, even if they're in Nigeria or Benin Republic or Ghana or Togo, wherever they find themselves, they are still going to be Yoruba. That means that they are a nation of people. That's what it's saying basically. Now we're going to the constitution of the kind of constitution that Nigeria requires. Okay, so let's just read a few more things, and then eventually we'll most likely going to go back to news later. So let's go back just a bit. It is generally agreed. Again, this is Awolowo speaking in 1967 February. The University of Lagos was delivering this fantastic speech that I think still resonates and it still means a lot even today. It is generally agreed that the phrase developing country is euphemistic either in current use to distinguish an economically backward or underdeveloped country from the economically developed and advanced one. The chief common feature of all backward or underdeveloped society. One second. All right. The chief common feature of all backward or underdeveloped or developing countries is extreme poverty. For better understanding and near mathematical accuracy, economists have chosen a more or less arbitrary criterion for identifying backward or developing as well as developed or advanced countries. Their yardstick is the United States of America. If the income per head of a country falls below 1/4 of the income per head in the USA, then that country is said to be backward, underdeveloped, or developing. It must be emphasized that the phrase has no political import or denotation at all. Applying this yardstick and having regard to available national income data of all the countries of the world, it is easy to discern and declare that developing countries are to be found mostly in Africa, Latin America, the Middle East, and the Far East. In the face of this, it becomes obvious that there's a very strong nexus between political instability, with its accompanying necessity for constitutional changes, and economic backwardness and poverty. Constitution making is, however, not a process defined. Say that again. Constitution making is, however, not a process confined to developing countries only. Now and again, some developed countries do give themselves new constitutions, as was, for instance, the case with Japan in 1946, Austria in 1955, and France in 1958. There are three types of constitution. They are unitary, federal, and confederal. Under a unitary constitution, the supreme legislative power in the state is vested in a single authority, whereas under a federal constitution, the supreme legislative power in a composite state is shared between the central authority on the one hand and the regional with and independent of one another in the discharge of the functions expressly or by necessary implication vested in them by the constitution. All this strange just made me remember something. Before we went off the other time, I was actually trying to read something. I just remembered now. Can you imagine? I was trying to read who has oversight of the finance of the state and local governments. And we're going to go there once. Let me see. Where are we? 1 second though. Let me see how many more pages we have. That's the news from what happened yesterday. We still have a few pages. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to finish this. If you want to read the rest, you probably have to get the book. But I think this will whet your appetite. Let's just read a few more things here before we go back to where we stopped with the news. I'm glad I remembered. All right, where were we? Before. That song is good though. The song Davido, Mayoko, and Fola. Good guys. Good song. Awolowo Buruku and Bodilon. 1 second, I'm just trying to make sure that I have that stuff on ground before we continue. Okay, good. So I know where we're going to continue from. Back to this. Okay, so it says there are three types of constitution. They are unitary, federal, and confederal. Under a unitary constitution, the supreme legislative power in the state is vested in a single authority. Whereas, under a federal constitution, the supreme legislative power in the composite state is shared between the central authority on the one hand and the regional authorities on the other, all of which are coordinate with and independent of one another. And I think the reason I remember this is because what we were saying earlier, that the the constituent units are not necessarily dependent on the central authority or the central government. They are, like it says here, they coordinate with and independent of one another in the discharge of the functions expressly or by necessary implication vested in them by the Constitution. So when people ask questions like we're listening to earlier with the lady, that how are you monitoring the allocation that the federal government that the Ministry of Finance is disbursing to the state and local government? I said, and I remember now, that whilst the Ministry of Finance has some work to do in terms of monitoring or tracking money, the truth of the matter is that the bodies are actually that have that oversight more as their function than the Ministry of Finance would be the states House of Assembly and the Auditor General of the states. In other words, the federal government is not the organ of the states and the local government. In reality, they're supposed to be working together, but they're also independent of one another. If you really think about it, and if that's how it should be. Although, you know, that's not that's not what we're getting. Perhaps it's also because we have that unitary mindset. Let's just finish this and then we can go on. A confederal constitution is easily distinguished from a federal constitution, while the central and regional authorities under a federal constitution are coordinate and independent of one another. Under a confederal constitution, the central authority is to a large extent dependent on the regional authorities. In other words, the central authority is neither coordinate with nor independent of the regional authorities. For all practical purposes, it owes its existence to the sufferance of the regional authorities. This is what we would have had with Decree 30. This is Decree 17. Should be Decree 17, right? 1 second. Let me find you. I want to get the name. The one. Am I mixing the date and the number of the decree? 1 second. I think I'm mixing it. That's from 1967. What Gowon was going to give Nigeria would have given us a confederal system or Decree 8, March 17, 1967. Decree 8 was essentially, even though that's not what they were trying to do, or they didn't call it that, but it was more or less a confederal constitution. A federal and a confederal constitution is invariably a written constitution for the simple reason that the division of functions between the central and regional authorities, which is inevitable, together with the attendant numerous provisions, cannot be left to what Arodlaski has graphically termed as the hazards of human memory. At this point, I'm going to take a break and get us back to where we stopped with the news. All right. Today's session is a bit different, I know. Interesting times. Take a listen to the question the lady asked the Minister of Finance earlier.
My name is Chisom from New Central, and I have just two questions. One is, when someone gives a scorecard, how would you rate yourself out of 10? I would absolutely love to hear your rating. Then finally, you did mention that these monies that were dispersed, they're dispersed to the states and the local government. So I just wanted to know, is there any specific, for the Federal Ministry of Finance dispersing these funds, is there any binding, maybe transparency or physical tracking mechanism that is in place or would be in place to make sure that as you are being transparent, making sure that this funds gets to where they're going to get to, that it's also being utilized? Thank you.
Number 4, Chisom from New Central says, how would I rate the government out of 10? You asked me to do self-assessment. I'll give the government an easy 7 out of 10. And the reason why it's not more than 7 is because it is work in progress. We'll give you the final score when you see income levels rising faster than prices. When you see the middle class in their millions making money. When we see economic growth at least 7%. When we see our GDP heading towards 1 trillion, then we do 10 over 10 because we don't want to be complacent. And you say, how are we tracking the resources to state and local government? You know, in the federation, the federal government is one level of government. We're not the auditor, and but we work together. And like I said, at the federal government level, particularly from the Ministry of Finance as part of our coordination role, we're developing framework for even local government. One of the aspirations we have is to have a portal, a central portal for Nigeria, where you can find all 774 local governments. You just go there, drop down, find your local governments. You see their development plan that captures their role as listed in the Constitution, their annual budget, trying to implement that plan, and the audited account on an annual basis. And you know that would just be fantastic. So this is where people feel the impact of government the most. So in summary, we're working together with the subnational to improve transparency.
All right. I was going to say thank you as though you were here. But the point I'm trying to, the point you made, of course, is very clear. And what I was trying to say earlier, before we had to take that break, is that while they have a duty, to see what's happening, you also have to understand the fact that there are 3 tiers of government. There's federal, there's state, and there's local. Apart from the federal, you have 774 local governments. Speak slowly. 774 local governments and 36 states. That gives you 810 governments. Apart from the FCT and the area councils within Abuja. So you have of the Ministry of Finance. And the constitution is actually very clear on the fact that the each state will maintain a special account, all right, into which all federal allocation is paid. 1 second, though. Mhm. The section 125 establishes the office of the Auditor General for a state, who is appointed by the governor on the recommendation of the state civil service. That Auditor General is the one who audits the public accounts of the states and of all local government councils within the state to ensure that all financial records are examined and submitted directly to the governor. No, to the State House of Assembly, to the legislature. In other words, we have to also find a way to disabuse our minds from this unitary thinking where we assume that everything must be coordinated from the center. This is why we don't hold our governors accountable for anything. We don't ask them what they're using the money for. We don't ask them what they're doing with all this allocation they're getting every month. We don't really ask. We're just shouting Tinubu, Tinubu, Tinubu. Meanwhile, the bulk of the money goes to the state and the local government in terms of percentage, right? As a unit, as a group. The federal gets a chunk of it, but the states also share from the larger part of it. You get what I'm saying? But the question is that, well, the point is that we don't question the states because in our minds we are locked up in that unitary thinking. And so you say something like, what are you doing to track them? Whilst it makes sense to ask that question because you're the one who disburses the funds, I mean, of course, there's RMAFC as well. RMAFC is Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. It's a commission that has to do with FAC, the federal allocation that we share every month. But the point I'm trying to make is that Nigerians have to also become more interested in what happens at the sub-national levels. What are your states doing? What is the State House of Assembly? What are they doing in monitoring the money being disbursed to the states? All right. And when you have Auditor General as well, are they working with the House of Assembly, the legislature, to ensure that the monies are being tracked and so on and so forth? Just to help us understand the fact that other tiers of government and they are not in any way subservient, right, to the federal government, which is why, like I said the other day, I laugh when people say things like the president should instruct the state governors and local government chairmen what they must do with the money getting to them. He doesn't have that power. He's not an emperor. He's a president. The way he has 4 terms, they also 4-year term. The governor also has 4-year term or tenure. So he can't just come and say, I'm your Oga. He's not the Oga. The people are the Oga. So the people have to get serious so that we can, get direct our questions or direct our concerns where they should be directed. Having said that, we're supposed to actually do a review of the conversation that they had yesterday. But there's a part where there's a part where the Minister of Finance talked about the money they shared, where he said that the federal government, from subsidy savings, by the way, Nigeria was able to share, the entire government, the 3 tiers, were able to share 15.8 trillion naira. And of that money, of that amount, federal government got 34%. The states got 41%. Local government got 24%. Excuse me. All right. So federal government got 5.4 trillion naira, which is 34%. The states got 6.5 trillion naira, which is 41%. Local governments got 3.9 trillion naira, which is 24%. But we need to ask these questions and say, okay, so what are you guys doing with the money that you got? So I want us to do what we're going to do earlier. Let's do it now. The breakdown. I don't know how your device works, but you may not have to read it now. I'm just going to read it to you. I'm going to read it in your hearing, and then you can get into that later. So this is the presentation, Nigeria's Reform Scorecard. I'm just going to go through it very quickly, and then I'll read some things as well. Subsidy savings, higher revenue, and borrowing, how the money was spent. Like I said earlier, 15.8 trillion naira was the relative share of subsidy savings. Was the subsidy savings which was shared by by the tiers of government. So this is the relative share for each of the tier of government. Like I mentioned, 24% to the local government, 34 to the federal, and 41 to the state. Then there was 3.1 trillion naira in other incremental revenue. All right, this is of 20.4 trillion naira. All right, and it says here that the document is on Telegram channel, by the way. Let's say Telegram channel is Redomi Global, you will find all these things there. All right. Maybe later on you can read it at your own leisure. How the spending was funded. It said they funded the spending by incremental resources to the tune of 20.4 billion. So 20 trillion 404 billion point 12 now. And then you have existing revenue base of 10 trillion 236 billion point 42. I'm looking for something. I think it's in other document. Just give me a second, please. So there are three documents we shared containing this interesting stuff. So this one, I think you should read it. Once we're done, it's called Nigeria's Reform Scorecard: The Benefits, Costs, and Harms Prevented. Remarks by Professor Taiwo Edele, Honorable Minister of Finance. It's a very long stuff, so you will enjoy reading it. I could read it, but we've already spent a lot of time trying to fix electricity earlier. I want to see if there's some things I can quickly read to you from that speech. That was a speech, by the way. That was his address. I'm just going to read some of the passages. Let's leave all this greeting. So we talked about what they spend the money on. Minimum wage has more than doubled from 30,000 to 70,000 naira. Nail Fund is one of the most affordable student loan schemes. Yeah, it is harder. This is Tawe Dele, by the way, Minister of Finance. It is harder to see what did not happen, but our scorecard puts numbers to it. In May 2023, 27 states could not reliably pay salaries. Today, that number is 0. In other words, 27 out of 36 states in Nigeria were not able to pay salaries. And we're all in this country where we heard about AFSA. AFSA is half salary, and the governor then of that state was called Baba AFSA because people didn't have enough money to pay their workers, which is a shame. But I mean, that's a thing of the past now, thankfully. So it says here, please, we're having some issues on TikTok. Please power tap if you're on TikTok. Thank you. But I'm going to keep reading that stuff. Let's just sort out this TikTok thing. Please power tap on TikTok. I don't know why this happens. Umbo. I think it should be good now. Sorry. One second, please. All right, let's get into this. So it says a scorecard. Okay, it is harder to see what did not happen, but our scorecard puts numbers to it. In May 2023, 27 states could not reliably pay salaries. Today, that number is 0. On the pre-reform trajectory, our own estimate is that at least 30 states would be in that position by now. That's not a handful, but the majority of the federation. The official exchange rate premium over the parallel market, once above 60%, is now under 5%. Left unaddressed, we projected it would be above 150%, with the naira simply unavailable at any official rate for most Nigerians and businesses. What he's saying basically is this. So number one, the states are able to pay salaries right now because they have more money than they used to, and nobody's owing anybody. In fact, many states are saying they're not borrowing even from international banks and so on, because they're able to take care of their people with their allocations. And so also talking about foreign exchange, the official exchange rate. People ask questions: how come they didn't keep it at the price at the figure it was, the amount it was to a dollar? He's saying here that if they had done that, it would have been difficult for people to even access the foreign exchange with the naira they had. All right. So it says here that We project it to be above 150%, with the naira simply unavailable at any official rate for most Nigerians and businesses. All right. Then he talked about, I like what he did here, where he says that they want to be honest about the cost. He says a scorecard that only lists wins is not a scorecard. It's a campaign leaflet, and we did not come here to give you one. The monetary policy rate, by the way, there's a video of this. I also put it on the Telegram channel. You can watch it much later, but it's very long. I'm just giving you the tidbits. It says here that the monetary policy rate has risen from 18.5% to 26.5%. We record that plainly as the cost of stabilization, not a hidden win. Petrol at the pump has risen from roughly 185 naira a litre to between 1,100 and 1,400 naira. That is a major felt cost, and I will not stand here and tell you otherwise. What I will say is what the counterfactual shows. On the reform path, in other words, before the subsidy removal, petrol would likely be simultaneously unavailable at the old official price and trading above 3,000 naira on the black market. So he's saying that, yes, you could go to the filling station and see written there 185 naira per litre, but in reality, you'll not be able to buy it. You might have to now, resort to buying at the black market for about 3,000 naira. So he says that's a worse cost, paid in scarcity as well as money, and I dare say as well as in time, because time you're going to see, with nothing gained in return. And on food and household welfare, our own assessment is candid. This remains a work in progress. Food inflation has eased from 24.82% to 17.52% as of June 2026. But poverty and household welfare recovery is still classified in our own scorecard as unfinished business, not a victory lap. I'll read just one more thing before we go on. Where we stand today. The results are now visible in the data, not just in our arguments. Headline inflation has eased to 15.91% as of June this year, down from 22.41% at our May 2023 baseline. Gross foreign reserves stand at $52.5 billion, up from around $35 billion, while net reserves have moved from roughly $3 billion to $34.8 billion, a far more meaningful measure of our actual buffer. The stock market has grown from 31 trillion naira to roughly 150 trillion naira in capitalization. Real GDP growth has strengthened to 3.89% against a baseline of 2.31%, and no reform estimate that had us at best stagnant and at worst in recession. So I want you to read this. Talks about what they're planning to do looking ahead, talked about the tax to GDP ratio and so on and so forth. And I just read the last portion, the call to action. I will close with 3 simple asks. First, be a citizen. Support positive government policies. Like that. We cannot build our country by opposing every government action. Some people, their definition of smart is to be contrarian. And you see them these days on TV. Their work is to be contrarian. Being contrarian doesn't mean you are smart. It just means that you don't go the way if others are going. Even if where they are going is right, you still go the other way. Because you want to prove that you have a different or a contrary opinion. Many people shouting. They may have the platform or even have the crowd, but in actual fact, they're just selling hopelessness. Nothing the government does is good. They must speak against. They have to look for something. You know how people look for solutions to problems? They look for problems to every solution. You hear a solution like this, say, there's a problem in that solution. That's their own job in life. You cannot build a nation like that, or a country, whichever one you call it. You can't build Nigeria like that. So it says here, support positive government policies. We cannot build our country by opposing every government action. Second, criticize government constructively. Misinformation, like anything else we amplify, shapes the reality we all end up living in. There is nothing wrong with criticizing the government. I don't believe in psychophancy, where everything your God does is right. Right. No, the president could be wrong. And has he been wrong in the last 3 years? Of course, he's human. But the point is, if you're going to even criticize, at least do it constructively. Not this thing where, particularly because these days this is the age of social media. You have a platform essentially, and you have people just go out there, and during CNG, what were people carrying all over the place? Oh, it can burn places up, it can destroy Kinikon. What will make that thing not work? They will look for it. They will misinform the populace, and those ones will lap it up because they have followers. I have a couple thousand followers, but what does that really mean in terms of the information you are giving out to those people? And as you have more influence, you've got to be intentional about the things that you are sharing. And I think people are actually intentionally being stupid, to be honest, because I see a lot of them, they know they're saying nonsense. Somebody was saying the other day that a lot of people in some political camps are there on Twitter, not because they really are persuaded about the person they are following, but because they want Elon's money. Elon Musk, Twitter pays. I need engagement to get that money. I mean, I pay Twitter, but I think maybe we have to find a way to make sure that Twitter can pay as well. But the truth of the matter is that if your primary goal is to get Twitter to pay, then you're going to whip up sentiments and say all kinds of things that will get people to come on your page and say all kinds of things so that way your engagement goes up and then you make money. But at what cost? People are hopeless. One of the problems I notice in this country, particularly on social media, is that hopelessness is sold at wholesale. It's so at wholesale price, like it's so cheap. And some of them will be drinking, and like I said, I read the other day, the report from beer, malt, and spirits, over 1 trillion naira, 1 quarter in this year alone, 1 quarter, 3 months. Nigerians drank malt, beer, and spirits over 1 trillion naira. They are the ones that are drinking that nonsense. So when I said nonsense, I drink malt. They are the ones that are drinking whatever they are drinking, but they'll be the one telling you the nonsense about the fact that everybody is hungry. So they sell hopelessness to everybody while, we're all spending the money to drink, even if whether you drink malt or spirit or Holy Spirit, whichever one. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make, is that people are selling hopelessness and misinformation because it pays them, which is why Adebusui Ores, I want to state that at this point, the government may need to constructively regulate social media. Yes. But at least when we speak, we'll be talking about what we know. At least we are making references to things that make sense. I'm flabbergasted when I watch people on social media make statements that they cannot even back up with anything. There's no data, there's no source, they just say it. And those things go viral. And they're easier to make than the things that we do here, just to be clear. I see people make content and I'm like, quoting kakan, they're simbe, they're sobai, they're wrong. In other words, you were not there, you are quoting nobody, you are not quoting any data, but you are speaking with so much boldness and you are confidently wrong. And then you put it out there, people just lap it up. Because they too, they don't really care about those things. Who cares about, when you hear go and verify, do you really think people go and verify? When Peter B says go and verify, you think people actually no? Let me ask you, if you're obedient here, don't write in the comment section, answer to yourself. If you were an obedient, and I want to thank God for your deliverance, but when you were an obedient, did you ever verify anything Peter B told you to go and verify? You would not. And it's not because you are not smart, it's because you believe the person that was telling you to go and verify. To the point that when they tell you to go and verify, you verifying seems like an insult to the person. Therefore, you don't verify. So go and verify becomes a talking point, not a call to action. Go and verify. He knows you're not going to verify anything. It was after people left obedient, that's when they started verifying. I'm like, we didn't know. So when you can verify, but you can verify ni. And if verify, you want to vote now. How can you know? And that's why you notice former obedience are the worst critics of P2B. And those ones are crazy guys, man. And I don't mean crazy as a bad term. I mean they're just they're out of this world. When they grab themselves, there's a way they know exactly how it works. So and they've been there. All of that to say that there's a lot of information going out, and we need to make sure that let's share the right information, not misinformation or disinformation. Let's not try to get people off track. Government wants to do something. If you don't understand it, leave it alone. There are things that government wants to do. I take days to understand. Sincerely, there's some news items I don't read intentionally because I don't get it yet. And I consider myself a pretty smart person, but it's not my field. So I'll probably take a day or two to understand this. So when I speak, I won't be speaking like a let's help the government to help ourselves, okay? And there are some things that even if you read it for 2 days, you're not supposed to speak on it because Max, you just read what it is, you won't explain it because it's not your field. Another question, why do people think they have to explain everything? Nobody is that smart. Nobody is proficient in all things. You're not God. I don't know all these people are always doing social media again. What the man sort of but you know, because people are, you know, when you're confident, people think you know what you're saying. So people start to laugh. Anyway, let's go back to what we're reading. I apologize for it. It's not a digression, it's part of it, right? So number one, be a citizen, support positive government policies. We cannot build our country by opposing every government action. Second, criticize government constructively. Misinformation, like anything else we amplify, shapes the reality we end up living in. Excuse me. It shapes people say things about Nigeria. Those things are not true, but that's what they've heard. E.g., Nelfund. When Nelfund was announced, there were people whose stock in trade at the time was to look for ways to demarket that program, so that young people from certain places did not access that loan, even though they needed it. Because certain people have gone out to misinform those people, you know, it doesn't work because they've been told it will not work. So it has shaped their reality. And then thirdly, play your part. Seek facts and proper understanding, not populist views or sensational headlines. Okay? That's for all of us. If you don't understand something, try and understand it. And you don't have to say it. Nobody is going to pay anybody for being the first to share any news. You're not Channels TV. You're not Arise. You're not TVC. And even those ones, sometimes some of them talk, I wondering, it's not your field. Shut up. Some of them are OAPs who have no business discussing certain things. It's not your field. Ask questions, conduct interviews, and do it humbly. Some of them are just braggadocious. And the funny thing about their braggadocio is that they don't know what they're talking about. You know the people I'm talking about. Sure. But for all of us, let's seek facts. And let's seek proper understanding. And if you don't know something, leave it alone. You don't have to talk about it immediately. You will not die. And leave populist views or sensational headlines where you say things because people are going to like it. People are already writing things in the comment section. You are right. People writing, you just say things because people will not like you. They now give you 100 and something thousand views in 1 hour. But I don't know, does a part of a person dies when they do that? Maybe I think it's something like that. Probably takes place in their heart. So you're essentially exchanging a bit of you for what? For likes and views and maybe money. Anyway, finally, he says here, we are not here to pretend these reforms were painless. We are here to show you honestly and with the numbers what they cost, the benefits they delivered, and the harm they prevented. Please get this document on our Telegram channel. Go to the learning material section. You see the minister's release or the minister's speech. You also see the presentation, and then there's another one that I think is very important. Let me find you the name. The fiscal analysis, underlying fiscal analysis, underlying fiscal, not physical, fiscal analysis. So those things help to, like, beyond just words, you're able to actually see how things work. All right. I think we've tried for this, Kinyo. By the way, I think somebody said that somebody should pay me. It's time. I hope they'll do that soon. But I think it's something we don't have to be paid for us to do these things. Let's all, have a better understanding of what's going on in our government. Right? Good news. The federal government is starting something called Project Bridge. Federal government is driving a massive $2 billion investment to quadruple Nigeria's fiber optic backbone, expanding our digital infrastructure and keeping Nigerians better connected in the digital age. That means you're going to have faster internet, stronger digital services, going to have great opportunities for business, and also young Nigerians get to use infrastructure that can impact everyday life. So there are images. I think I'm going to share this on the Telegram channel as well, because let's share good news. People tend to share a lot of bad news about this country. Let's be different. Again, doesn't mean if something is not working, we're not going to talk about it, but we'll talk about it as, sensible humans and not as hopeless clowns. All right. Okay. While I'm doing this, let me play you something from the minister, and then I'm going to tell you the details of that project bridge. Okay, or Project Bridge, like we say it here. Take a listen to this.
Now, in addition to the benefits to the average Nigerian, we want to tell ourselves the harm that the reforms prevented, the counterfactual. It is harder to see what did not happen, but a scorecard puts numbers to it. In May 2023, 27 states could not reliably pay salaries. Today, that number is 0. On the pre-reform trajectory, our own estimate is that at least 30 states will be in that position by now, struggling to pay salaries. That's not a handful, that's the majority of the federation. The official exchange rate premium over the parallel market, once above 60%, is now under 5%. Left unaddressed, we project to be above 150% today, with the Naira simply unavailable at any official rate for most Nigerians and businesses. We're running out of dollars. Our net external reserve was under 3 billion, and we're owing over 7 billion. That's bankruptcy. I know we can't print dollars because we're not the United States of America. What that means is, even to buy fuel, Nigerians will say, God forbid, you hold 3,000 naira and you will not find a liter, because there will be scarcity everywhere. Remember, we're importing refined products. Dangote refinery will not have been able to start because you can't sell at 200 naira per liter and queue up for government to pay the balance. Already spending nearly 100% of his revenue just to service debts and printing a lot of money. Just to imagine what could have been.
All right. We understand what could have been. Brilliant stuff. So when you get the time, you can please check out the Redomi Global to find details of the Project Bridge, which is our President Tinubu's $2 billion plan will quadruple Nigeria's fiber backbone. Talked about the fact that Nigeria has 90,000 kilometers of new the bridge will provide 90,000 kilometers of new open access fiber optic cable across Nigeria. Has been approved by the president, and it will be deployed within weeks, starting in August of 2026. The plan is to connect every state, geopolitical zone, and all local government areas, 774 of them, and all wards across the country. It will expand national fiber backbone from 30,000 to 35,000 kilometers to 120,000 to 125,000 kilometers. That's across Nigeria. So the question we should be asking is, how are they going to fund this? Where is the money coming from? Well, it's going to be a public-private partnership via a special purpose vehicle, SPV, and bridge open access, which has just been recently incorporated. So the government stake is 25 to 49%. The private sector majority is 51%. The total cost of this project is $1.6 billion to $2 billion. And it's going to be backed by World Bank, providing $500 million, African Development Bank providing $200 million, EBRD providing $100 million, private capital and other grants and loans. They want to boost, the goals and impact of the project is to boost broadband penetration. The target is to have 70% penetration in Nigeria by 2030. The plan also is to connect schools, health facilities, rural communities, and public institutions, so that when you go to your village for Christmas, you can still browse, okay, using your mobile data. I know you can browse right now if you carry Starlink, go village, but I want to do the one way people with their village because we use their phone. And of course, it's going to support digital economic growth, job creation, and inclusion. All right, so we're going to start laying the fiber soon, and the plan is to roll out this in the next 5 years. So by 2030, they plan to complete all of this. So that's good news coming from the federal government. Another good news I'd like to share is something the Minister of Communications shared the other day. That's Bosun Tijani, right? Yeah, Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. It said on October 1st, 2026, just about 6 weeks from now, or 6 weeks from now. On October 1st, 2026, Nigeria's new alphanumeric postcode system goes live. For the first time,
a real locatable address has never existed. Thousands of Nigerians were recruited, trained, and deployed. State coordinators, GIS analysts, supervisors, field mappers, local guides, all aligned on one system, one standard, one mission: to give Nigeria the postcode it has always needed. 12 states, 6 geopolitical zones, the FCT, every building classified, every postcode unit logged, every data point synced to the cloud and validated in real time. This is not a plan. This is execution. One code per building, thousands of Nigerian buildings finally on the map.
This will change the game completely. It's going to change the game. When you order things, for instance, logistics, people working in logistics is going to help. It's also going to help, I believe, with government programs for different localities. We should have had it a long time ago, but I'm very glad it's happening now. It's better late than never. Hopefully, with time, we're going to go into details of the things that this will birth, or the implications for us all, and why we should celebrate it. But I think this is really beautiful, isn't it? Every building has an alphanumeric postcode, right? Because your house is numbered, your street is known, you are even on Google Maps, whatever. But the point is, there are many houses we know that when I was growing up, there's some places in Ibadan. I grew up in Ibadan, I always say it. And I think the postcode at the time was even good. I think it was even good, but I don't think it's not been in use in a long time. You hear something like SW7 stroke 4221 or stroke 221K. But where is W? Which is what is actually used in England, essentially just using, your northwest, southwest, southeast, and so on and so forth. But it's also something that is used all over the country. So with this now, we're going to experience a lot of growth. Somebody was saying that this is how they should have, when they start, they should do it this way. They've already done it. They are rolling it out October 1st, and that's a good thing for Nigeria. We should celebrate these things as citizens, and as we look forward to the rollout. Right? Okay. I'm going to move on to other things. I have a few more things to talk about before I bring people up. I would also listen to Segun Showumi. He was on Arise News. Sorry, it was on Channels TV, talking about the president and his position on what 2027 is going to look like. But before we listen to him, I want to quickly read something to you from the State House. Right? Let's start with the State House press release. Tinubu tasks Homeland Security Advisor to coordinate 5-year national security threat assessment defense plan. It's a long read. I'm just going to read part of it, but this is from the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, and it says here, President Bola Tinubu has approved the immediate preparation of a comprehensive national threat assessment and a rolling five-year strategic defense operations plan to strengthen coordination across Nigeria's defense, intelligence, and security capabilities. The President's Special Advisor on Homeland Security, Major General Adeyinka A. Famadewa, will coordinate and provide secretariat support for the 9-man committee the President constituted to draft the Strategic Defense Operations Plan. Other members of the committee are the National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, the Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, the Minister of State for Defense, Alhaji Bello Muhammad Matawale, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Olufemi Oluyede, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waidi Shaibu, Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sunday Kelvin Aneke, and the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral E.D. Abbas. The Director General of the Department of State Service, Tosin Ajayi, and Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Mohammed are also members of the committee. What I like about this is people are actually sitting down to come up with a plan. That kind of helps better than just, working whatever it is that's happening at the point in time. Anyway, very quickly, let's listen to Showmi's interview on Channels TV about the presidency.
From the build-up going towards 2027, I think this is the most important and incidental election of all the elections we've had in the past. Right, so very good. The energy level, the rhetorics, what is at stake, the balance of the country is a bit on the high side. So I found myself singing a song when I knew I was going to come to you today. It's a Yoruba song, but I think you will like it. I said, I was calling the name of the president in our Yoruba language. And I said, Ọlọ́run tó lẹ́rù abá ẹ gbé, Àkànbí. Ọlọ́run tó lẹ́rù abá ẹ gbé, Ọlọ́run tó lẹ́rù ló lòṣùká, Ọlọ́run tó lẹ́rù abá, because so much is at stake.
Invariably, you in that song, that may interpret for our viewers who don't speak Yoruba language. You are saying to Bola Tinubu that God will help him to sail through this journey, and this burden, he will be able to carry it successfully.
Do you know what?
Is that no sacrifice?
No, that can it be when I'm praying that the whole thing should...
What kind of stupid question is this? How is that psychophancy? Kí ló ń ṣe àwọn ará bí náà? Mo dẹ̀ like ṣe wọn o. Má fall land wa o. I mean, at some point, we have to engage. What kind of rubbish is that? Ọlọ́run tó lẹ́rù abẹ́ gbé. How is that psychophancy?
Well, listen.
All of a sudden,
one second.
You are
the election.
Just
listen, I've not even started. I'm going to campaign for everybody knows that. Yeah.
Have you been insulted?
By who?
Bola Tinubu.
You see, it's an insult on me to even think I've been insulted. If it is sorted, I know where money is and I know how to get it. I'm just too passionate about the direction I see the country go, but I don't want them to get it. We'll come into
No, because the question now,
let me tell you why we get
you were an Atiku man.
That's a long time.
Yes, I know.
I backed him 2 elections back to back.
The last time I checked, you're still in PDP.
Have I ever told you I've left?
But you're campaigning
Are you
for
not
APC.
listen,
This
are you
wickedness
not
in
aware
PDP.
that every nation will plan their democracy around their circumstance? The circumstance of the Nigerian nation that you see being about Rainbow Coalition, people being sympathetic to the president and other, including the Wiki and Co, is based on only one principle. How do we balance the democracy of Nigeria in an environment where the demography, that means the way population is growing in each of the zones, is different? It therefore follows that for us to have a modicum of predictability and stability, we must walk along the principle of the pendulum. The reason is that if we don't do that, we will then be victims of where the numbers are. Now, if we become the victims of where the numbers are now, then how long can we go before it becomes extremely offensive? So for us to balance it, General Sani Abacha of blessed memory, it was not exactly silly when he created 6 geopolitical zones. It was because it is clear to anybody who loves the and the intricacies of a multicultural, multi-ethnic country.
Another part of the video, this is where he talks about the fact that, and it's true, of the 6 geopolitical zones, it's true. Southwest seems to be the most democratic space, right? Where you can say things and get away with it, unlike certain places where if you say things, they feel come for you. And I'm not saying it's perfect, it's just that it's more democratic. Anyway, that's Shegun Shomi's view, and I tend to agree with that, sentiment. But take a listen to this.
Location. So let me tell you what people talk about when they talk about the Southwest that they do not pay attention to. The southwestern part of our country, Nigeria, is the only location where democracy is actually remotely working. From the days of you, even the days of Obafemi Awolowo, our people have been very Republican. And their Republican nature means that everybody will have some space. Why do you think we're the most inclusive, even in terms of people living in the zone and probably small skirmishes?
I imagine that the Southwest is more democratic than the Republican Southeast.
Let me explain. The Republican Southeast is on the risk. I hope they will change. They usually just make up their mind they are going in the wrong direction, and when they go in the wrong direction, they are not part of the nation, and then they start complaining. But that's their business. I'm not here for them. Let me go to the Southwest. I don't see anything that will affect the president in the Southwest except the management of his own people within his own party. In the Southwest as a structure today, the APC is the only one that can do damage to the APC. And what do I mean? If they ignore all their election giants and they insist that one individual will not manage the complexity of other people's hearts, and they insist that they are going to be smart by half, leave out their heavy punchers. Sorry. Imagine for a second if the president were just to do a proper review, not the ones that his friends are telling him, a proper review on the day, the potential day of the vote, and who can contribute to an election minus federal might. Is it PDP that is going to beat him?
All right. I'm going to bring people up soon so I can contribute to the conversation. But I do agree with the sentiment, and excuse me. I want to thank this particular person on YouTube, MDA8613. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're back. I haven't seen you in a long time and I missed you. So thank you very much for the messages that you constantly post on YouTube. Thank you so much. Those messages help a lot. I'd like to play you something from a person from the Southwest and the answer to the question of who he would be supporting in next year's election. Take a listen.
Jonathan, Atiku Abubakar, Sowore, Peter Obi or Tinubu, who are you voting for?
Tinubu, Jagaba.
Why Tinubu?
It's my mentor. It's my father. It's my role model. It's my leader.
Why is he your role model?
It's my role model because I brought up under their group. You understand? Because I'm a part of Lagos Island. So I was born in Lagos Island and brought up in Lagos Island. So it's our founder.
Is it because you are benefiting from his government? Is that the reason why you are voting for him?
Yeah, I benefit. I benefit a lot. I won't lie to you. I benefit.
You are benefiting from the government?
Yes, I'm benefit.
Can you tell me like 2 or 3 benefits?
I benefit a lot because now the school fees level.
School fees.
You understand? Because my son is in Ilani Poly. You understand? So that is the first achievement I achieved in this government. So I have to appreciate and thank him. God will protect him.
God will protect him.
Yeah. So secondly, all the security aspects, I really appreciate because all of us we are not happy because of what happened in the Oyo State. But now, my father and my leader and my role mentor, they do a lot. I really appreciate and I thank him. God will bless him more for me.
So this, there's a reason I like playing clips from this guy. He goes into the streets, asks questions, and then they come up. I mean, they tell exactly what they will do next election and things like that. The reason I like it is because we tend to live in a bubble. Particularly with our use of social media, we assume in some sense that everything begins and ends right here on the internet. But in the real world, people know what's happening. If you're a parent and your children are able to access Nail Fund, it takes a lot of weight off of you. I mean, for someone like this, you're probably able to take care of the younger ones. So they know that the one who has gone is going to sort himself. And when he's done with uni or with polytechnic, he's not going to be paying immediately after he graduates or immediately graduates. He's not going to have to pay immediately. He has to get a job. And even then, his payment to be structured based on his salary. That means that the burden is off the parents. You think those parents don't know who is making their burden lesser? All right. Then, of course, you mentioned what happened in the local government with the children that were kidnapped and rescued later. All of this to say that beyond the rhetoric on social media, there are real people in Nigeria. Elections are not won on social media. Social media is important because there are people on social media as well, but not all of us are here. Not all of us are speaking English. Many of us, for instance, maybe you don't care about Nail Fund, and that's okay. You have plenty of money, that's fine. But there are people who do, and it seems to me that those who need the funds are more than those of us who are speaking English saying it's not going to work. And if they're accessing it, surely they're going to vote in a particular direction. But we'll see how that goes. All of that to say that when Tinubu wins next year, and I believe he's going to win, nobody's going to be shouting rig, The things he did in southern Katsina, nobody has done something like that for them before. Nobody. Not even a northern head of state. So when he wins, well, they hate us. These are the reasons he's going to win. All right, as we wrap up today, there's this news from Katsina State that Governor Umar Diko Rada visited the grave of the late former president of Nigeria, Umar Musa Yar'Adua, at Danmana Cemetery in Katsina to offer prayers for him at his final resting place. People have said all kinds of things about this visit. If this is because of the elections, and people are asking, did he visit the grave before today? Because of course, officially, I think official campaigns, I think begins, is it today or began yesterday? Yeah. So the fact that it's going there, people are asking all kinds of questions about it. Maybe it has been there before now that we don't know, but clearly this means something as far as politics is concerned. This is what we say. Thank you very much, no fracas. So campaign officially began yesterday, and he visited the grave today. People are asking, if it has anything to do with politics. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But here's the thing. For those of us who are always discussing politics, these little things matter. It's not about there's manifesto, but there's also optics. You can criticize him. Okay, you're not in Katsina. People in Katsina probably see something differently. I mean, they see this action differently. Those things are saying, why should I stand there? Why should I stand there? You are saying, you're speaking, if I'm abroad in Cenac lives. Okay. I don't know what to say. I can't say it didn't go there before. Àjẹkílà náà mọ́kúlé ni ó lè kúkú jẹ́ pé ajá náà ló pọ̀ mọ́ ní jẹ́ ó ṣeé ṣe kó jẹ́ pé torí election ló ṣe lọ ṣe nǹkan tó ṣe ṣùgbọ́n the point is that that simple thing might actually win him some votes. Democracy is a very funny system of government. I like it, Shao. I like it. I prefer it to other alternatives, at least based on the structure of our country and where we are right now, or even the world generally. But I think what we just need to do in this country is probably to adapt it to meet our own needs rather than just assume that should be the same thing like what we imported from the United States. All right, this good news I should share before we go. So there's a report. I think I should also share this on Telegram channel, so I won't have to read everything because FCPC, not EFCC, FCCPC. That's the Federal Consumer Protection, something like that. Let me look for the full name. It's Consumer Protection. They should do consumer protection. You can look for the meaning, I beg. No, I have to look for the meaning. I mean, we cannot look for it, but I don't think I should be sending you to do it when I also can. That's one thing. I always Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. Okay? FCCPC. Thank you, Koboko. Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. FCCPC. They don't bring news, so then talk say there is possible price manipulation in this cement industry for this Obodo, Nigeria. Tuesday, August 18, 2026, findings from an industry-wide investigation conducted by the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, suggest possible manipulation of prices of cement in the Nigerian market. This is the preliminary summation of prices of cement in the Nigerian market. This is the preliminary summation of the 40-page field reports collated following a 3-month cross-border study by the Anti-Competitive Practices Department, ACP, of the Commission, undertaken in response to widespread public complaints over the high cost of cement, a common staple in the country's construction industry. Concerns were raised over the comparatively high retail price of cement compared with other markets, despite the country's substantial limestone deposits, significant domestic production capacity, and reported surplus installed capacity relative to domestic consumption. Significantly, all the major cement manufacturers in the country cooperated with the Commission by making their records available, except one of them. Publicly available estimates indicate that 3 major undertakings account for more than 90% of installed production capacity in the country. I'm very sure, I think I know those 3. Let me guess. Lafarge, Dangote, and Bois. I may be wrong, but I think those are the 3 major guys. All the 3, where is it? Okay, publicly available estimates indicate that 3 major undertakings account for more than 90% of installed production capacity in the country. The ACP investigations extended to markets in sub-Saharan Africa like Kenya, Tanzania, and South Africa, as well as Egypt, Morocco, and Algeria. Metrics adopted included the availability of limestone, the basic raw material for cement production, as well as other variables such as population, production capacity, and consumption. In Kenya, for instance, the 58.6 million population, 76% lower than Nigeria's, they have a domestic cement demand of approximately 9.3 million MTPA, that's metric ton per annum, in 2025. Retail price in Nairobi is $5.40. That's 7,344 naira. Ha! See, Gobe. Kenya is endowed with limestone. In Tanzania, With population of 66.3 million, 72% lower than Nigeria's, and domestic cement demand is 9.3 million MTPA. In 2025, a bag of cement sells for $4.80. That's 6,528 naira. In Togo, a bag sells for $6.75. That's 9,180 naira. Significantly, Togo does not have limestone deposit. Comparatively, in Nigeria, market intelligence reviewed by the Commission shows that the retail price of a 50-kilogram bag of cement rose significantly during the first half of 2026. A bag reportedly selling for between 9,300 naira and 9,700 naira in January was selling for between 10,500 and 13,000 naira by mid-year. By July, prices of between 13,000 naira and 15,000 naira were reported in some parts of the country. The Commission survey indicates that Nigeria has installed cement production capacity of more than 60 to 65 million metric tons annually, while estimated domestic consumption is approximate. How can you are producing more than you are consuming, and it's more expensive than Abba? So this is why I say we should stop saying Dangote, Dangote, Dangote. It's not Dangote alone. If Dangote is expensive, how come Lafarge is not cheaper? Or Boa? Why is it that they're all expensive? These are questions, and I hope that they're going to give us answers in this stuff. Let's continue. The Commission survey indicates that Nigeria has installed cement production capacity of more than 60 to 65 million metric tons annually, while estimated domestic consumption is approximately 25 to 30 million metric tons. Nigeria is also a net exporter of cement to neighboring markets. Of particular concern to the Commission is that this level of production capacity has not resulted in the downward pressure on domestic prices that might ordinarily be expected in a competitive market with substantial excess capacity. Information provided by industry participants has identified energy costs, depreciation of the naira, and its effect on imported machinery and spare parts, as well as transportation and logistics costs, among the factors contributing to cement prices. The Commission is testing these explanations against verified information on costs, production, pricing, and market conditions. However, the weight of preliminary findings provides sufficient grounds for the investigation to continue. Next is to determine whether prevailing cement prices can be explained by legitimate costs and market conditions, or whether there is evidence of coordinated conduct, abuse of market power, restriction of domestic supply, anti-competitive distribution practices, or other conduct contrary to the provisions of the FCCPA. Accordingly, the FCCPC has issued notices of commencement of investigation and summons to produce to the key players in the sector. I'm trying to see the rest. The rest you find, that's essentially what they've sent. Full details in slide. The slide I see, I just took. Okay, good. Sorry, I found it. Buladino. Okay. Accordingly, the FCCPC has issued notices of commencement of investigation and summons to produce to the key players in the sector. The companies are required to provide information and records relating to, among other matters, their pricing methodologies, production and capacity utilization, exports, and relevant commercial relationships. Explaining the basis of the Commission's intervention, the Executive Vice Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of the FCCPC, Mr. Tunji Bello, said, "The investigation reflects the Commission's responsibility to examine market conditions that have significant consequences for consumers and the wider economy." Bello said, and I quote, "Cement occupies a strategic place in the Nigerian economy. Its price affects the cost of building a home, developing commercial property, delivering public infrastructure, and ultimately the cost of doing business. When concerns persists about how such an important market is functioning, the Commission has a duty to look beyond assumptions and establish the facts." He explained that the competition scrutiny is not intended to dictate the commercial decisions of businesses, Rather, its purpose is to determine whether the market is functioning competitively and whether consumers are receiving the benefits that effective competition should provide. Last paragraph. Businesses are entitled to make legitimate commercial decisions and earn returns on their investments. Competition law does not prevent that. Its purpose is to protect the competitive process so that prices, output, and other market outcomes are determined by genuine competition rather than conduct that unlawfully restricts it. That distinction is important to the work we are undertaking, he said. So that's the whole thing I read it to you, but I'm going to do something more. If you go to Redomi Global General, I'm going to add this there. So if you want to read it again, please feel free to go and read it. Press release from FCCPC. It's been an interesting run today. Someone says BUA and Dangote want to raise money to back loan collector to build refinery. No comment. I don't know how you came up with that, Sha, but no comment. I just think they need to, hopefully this will lead to the reduction of prices because, I don't complain. I think because also, one tends to say, okay, God will provide. But I think at some point, you begin to wonder if people are intentionally shortchanging Nigerians. The one I used to hear, interestingly, the factor that I hear a lot was not even captured in this document. The factor was taxes. They said Nigeria used to collect a lot of taxes compared to Ghana, wherever they export the stuff to, or Benin Republic. And so because of taxes, that's why it's more expensive in Nigeria. They didn't even mention it here. But that energy cost, that one, they have a point. That one, they have a point. But I think hopefully we're going to get more information as this thing unravels. And of course, what we really want is for it to lead to reduction of prices. I think we've covered all the bases for today. And tomorrow I'd like to do some history. We'll see how that goes. We shared something yesterday about... Somebody asked a question or made a statement that I tried to correct, but I think we should go a bit deeper into it. That Victor Banjo scuttled Ojuku's plan. Of course, we discussed it and we're all on the same page now, but I just think that, I was talking, I wasn't really reading. And somehow I think, I don't know what you think about it. You can tell me in the comment section if you like it. I think that it helps to read different materials on this thing to have like a more holistic approach to understanding the events of the past. So would you like us to deal with that tomorrow, or would you like another topic? Is it okay to have that, to go over it more structured? If you want us to do it, just say yes in the comment section, and I'm going to check all comment sections. If you say no, then that means you don't want us to do it. Then we can do something else. While you're making up your mind, let me play you something from the incoming governor of Lagos State, who is the deputy governor right now, is the deputy governor, Dr. Bafemi Hamzat. Mr. Remy, Ẹkáàbọ, Bonfire Studios, Yoruba Only, Comrade, Honesty Pays. Okay, so we have a lot of yeses in the comment section. So let's do tomorrow. Sorry, I'm trying to think of the books, but we'll come up with something. Anyway, before we go, let's just listen to something from the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, and I believe he's going to be the governor in the next election, Dr. Bafemi Hamzat, and I want him to be the governor. He has a good head on his shoulders, which is quite nice for a state like Lagos. For all states in Nigeria, but of course, Lagos specifically in this case. Let's take a listen to what he said. It was on Nigeria Info, and they asked him a question about the problem of area boys in Nigeria, and he said something in Lagos, and he said something quite illuminating. Please take a listen to Dr. Bafemi Hamzat.
If you recall, I said it in the other interview. If you recall, there was a bill that wanted to regulate the usage of social media. We all crowd that we don't want it. But that's the effect. Those are the effects. So if you listen to what some of those boys are saying, they are saying that, oh, I must also collect because I know how Pella was collecting. If you listen to the video, I wasn't there, but if you listen to what they were saying, so the culture that we use social media negatively for is the fact that we are seeing. So do we control that? The answer is yes. So, but citizens will also accept that everything has positive and negative. A car is very useful, but a car can also kill people. And that is why they say you must have a driver's license because you drive it and so on. You get bullied on social media and so on and so forth. Should we allow that? So, no. So, but in terms of tout, it's a criminal offense. You know, and like I was saying there, this just over the weekend, about 98 people were arrested for various, and a magistrate will take, and depending on the judgment, they will serve their punishment. So we just need to keep enforcing our law to make sure that you cannot just break the law, harass people. No, you can't do that in Lagos.
Another question was asked was about salaries and rent. I'd like you to take a listen to this as well.
Don't let us misunderstand ourselves as a people. We are cultural people. Do you understand? So if I start work as a young person and I'm not married, a lot of us live with our parents. A lot of us live with our cousins. Go to Turkey, for example, and see how young people also live. So do you understand? So you start from the average, depending on... So in fact, if you spend more than 40% of your income on rent, it is too high because you must eat, you must buy clothes, you must do transportation. Do you understand? So that is what is important. But the bottom line is, like I said, the culture of ability to save. So that if people see that you can save money, then I can give you a property. It doesn't have to be, if you are a young person, you can start it with one bedroom or even a self-contained like you explained. But what is important is we must also build our economy in such a way that people earn better. You understand? So that everybody can be uplifted. And that is the bottom line. How do we improve our economy to make sure that we can build more houses? It's just revolving around the economy. And we are lucky. We are lucky because the levers that federal government should pull, they are pulling it in terms of the stability of the economy. If this economy is stable, then things are becoming predictable. In that way, you can predict inflation, you can predict everything, and prices become steady. That way, we can start to uplift the economy. So it's to repair the fundamental first before we can actually go to the next one. So the cost of buying things is what we need to fix first. And then when we fix that, which is what the federal government is doing now, then we'll be able to talk a lot more about the other pillars that stop on top of that.
Once I can find you a few more clips from that interview, and sincerely, I'm very pleased. He has good ideas, and I think this is somebody that we should all support. I'm going to play you a few more clips from him, and I think this will help you, at least appreciate him. Campaign to Berenoni. We want him to win. Take a listen to this. I mean, we're not going to have some people that are writing in the comment section. Those people, they can't be there now. You're writing road 5-4. 5-4. What do you mean? Are some people going to be carrying 5 placards and 4 placards on the road? Please explain. But take a listen to to Deputy Governor Obafemi Hamzat while you're looking for your explanation. Take a listen, please.
As a people, we must also determine what we want.
Okay, no, sorry. We listened to this already. Listen to that already. This one is about waste. So he has talked about area boys. I'm not explaining anything because of time, please. But I know that you already got it. Anyway, it's self-explanatory. He has talked about area boys. He has also talked about rent. When you go on social media, all of us live in Lekki. All of us live in Lekki. All of us live in duplexes. and we all pay 25 million per annum. So, I mean, the way people talk on social media, you think that everybody is wealthy. So he was talking about how people should start small, and then of course you can save and maybe have access to mortgage. Perism says that's Gbadebo now. I know, I was just kidding, don't worry. I was pulling your legs. I know you are talking about Gbadebo. Is the road survival. How you put that kind of person beside Obafemi Hamzat and you say you are competing for presidency? Could make sense. Let's listen to this one on waste crisis, because we're having a waste crisis in Lagos right now. I think the best time we actually were able to take care of waste properly was during BRF's administration. At the aviation scape, yeah, we were very back on. Let's take a listen to what Hamzat will do differently on the waste crisis in Lagos. Take a listen, please.
Well, so it's easy for me to just throw the agency under the bus, but I won't do that. That's the agency that's responsible, that we all know, Loma. But it's so we've asked them to do a job the scale of which we did not predict, and that scale is really unprecedented in this part of the world. So we thought that we are generating 13 tons on a daily basis. It turns out we are generating about 17,000.
Who misled you?
No. So it's figure. So that's why we said, if you go around every part of Africa, if you go to Accra, Lagos, Lome, Freetown, what you see is disorganization. As a people, the first thing we need to do is we need to organize ourselves. So how do you plan for something you can't measure? How? So people sleep on the street, this and that. So if you don't, what you can't measure, it's difficult to plan and manage it. Do you understand? So the people that sleep on the street, that man or those men or young boys that went and scraped the street, they generate refuse.
Yes.
How do we plan for that? How do we know? So unfortunately, because of also the war that Iran, whatever, all this war that's happening, our trucks, so we have about 420 or so PSPs. So these are private sector people that carry the refuse.
Yes.
Each of them, by agreement, must have 2 trucks before you can do. So we are expecting about over 800 trucks. The reality is that a lot of them don't have 2 anymore. Either it has shut down. They came to us to say, well, cost of diesel has gone up this. We want to increase the tariff. In fairness, we said no. Don't increase the tariff. Let the state pay. But we negotiated. So let's say they wanted to go by X. We said no, X minus Y. Y is a positive integer. To say instead of 10 naira, let it be 4, 5, and then we pay it to them. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is that we realize that a lot of the trucks are no longer usable. So we order trucks. So every local government, we have 57 local government LCDA. They order 2. That's 114. Then Lagos State government bought another 100. We were supposed to get delivery in July. Unfortunately, they now said it's going to be September. So when I said I will not throw Loma under the bus, it's because of something
it's
like
not their
that.
fault.
It's not technically their fault. Maybe we should have ordered earlier. Maybe. I mean, we must take responsibility.
I just saw something on social media right now. People are dragging him for saying that they should not spend more than 40% of their income on rent. So let me say it this way. I think people can take this as an advice. It doesn't mean that if you are spending more than 40%, you have sinned against God or humanity. It just means that ideally, you shouldn't spend more than 40%. I mean, so what should he have said? That you should spend 80% of your money on rent? That's the ideal situation. So I think the question would then be to him that since the ideal is not the reality because of the cost of rent, which for instance could be because, for instance, you want to live close to your workplace. If you want to go by 40%, you'll be staying way far away from work. You're going to have to now spend that money on transportation, So, so what would the government do to help regulate the prices of, to rent essentially in Lagos State? And of course, you also have to consider the fact that the government did not build the house for the landlord. So, and if the landlord is also buying things at expensive prices or whatever, he also has to make money from it. Maybe it depends on the rent for his own sustenance. These are questions I think people should ask rather than just insulting him and saying, what do you mean 40%? But ideally, I think it's an ideal thing to say. You save a bit, but I think to be honest, right, 40% or no 40%. I think the main point of what he's saying, if you really listen properly, well, is talking about saving so that you can get mortgage. That's actually what he was driving at. The 40% was like an advice on social media. People just pick the one that they can get angry and fight somebody over. You know what? If you like, spend everything. I think the gold rate here, and we all know the reality. Sometimes we spend much more. Excuse me. And it's not because it's your fault or because you can't plan. It's just because maybe you have issues, and things are expensive. Okay, I get. But what is really talking about is not even telling you how much you should spend on rent. What is actually driving at is that you should save enough money so that you be able to qualify for mortgage. You have some money to put down as down payment. That's what the whole conversation is about. People didn't hear that. They're just saying 40%. May God heal everybody in this country. And may God provide for all of us. Mimi Joseph says, even here, financial planners advocate not more than 25% on housing. Even here will be even in the US. Okay, so I think it's an advice, and you don't have to take it. But I mean, you should take the one about saving, though, if you can. I'm sure they'll still drag him if you like that one. Where are we going to save money from? We have spent everything. Okay, we all know how much we spent on pizzas and ice cream. Maybe we can save from that one. Anyway, we've come to the end of today's session. Thank you very much for being here. Like I said, tomorrow we're going to do some news, but we're going to spend a lot of time on history. I have an idea how we're going to begin tomorrow. It's going to be interesting. I have a pile of books we're going to go through, but will help us understand situations surrounding. Oh, there's another book, Colonel. I need to write it down. Colonel Victor Banjo, revolutionary betrayed, by Nia Borishade. Shaman de Parikin Lolaja. Waiting for 1 second. I just want to write the name down so I don't forget. One, two, three. What's it called? Yeah, we'll find a way. We'll see how we're going to, go through it. It might take us into some things, but to help us understand, the old stuff a lot better. Dan almost says no, doesn't want us to do that topic. Well, we have more yeses than no, so sorry. Sorry, eh? Adiowo on YouTube says high cost of cement affects rent for common man. Even affects building for uncommon men too. But you're right. You're right. Anyway, we're going to have to close the session for tonight. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. Everybody who power tapped, you liked, you commented, you shared. Thank you so much for your support. To those who gave gifts, right, your roses, your coins, your hearts, the heart means are much appreciated. Thank you so much for your support. All right. And on YouTube as well. Thanks for being here on Facebook and on Twitter. I'm glad you all came. We're going to call it today now. Thank you very much, Mr. Dungos, for being here as well. Tomorrow is going to be a bit... there's another book. Oh boy. People I say won't start a new series, so... because these books are getting too many. I'm doing this because I want to make sure that I get those books on the ground out. I'll get them out before we start the session tomorrow. Okay. I think we have enough now. So thank you so much for being part of today's session. I'll see you again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. But before we go, we're going to have our anthems, the Nigerian anthem and the Yoruba anthem. And after this, we'll call it a day. Thanks so much for being here. Please sing along. You should know the anthems by now, so please sing along. Thank you very much.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be our symbol, that truth and justice reign. In peace or battle ordered, and this we count as gain. To hand unto our children a banner without stain. Oh God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build our nation where no man is oppressed. And so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed. Nigeria may be blessed. Iṣẹ́ wa wá fún ilé-ìgbé wa. Kàgbéga, kàgbéga, kàgbéga fàyè rí. Ìgbàgbọ́ wa ni pé láti bẹ̀rù làbọ̀ mọ́. Ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká jọba. Ìṣọ̀kan àti òmìnira ni ẹ jẹ́ ká máa lépa. Tẹ̀síwájú lọ́pọ̀ ire àtòhun tó dára. Ọmọ Oòduà dìde, bọ́ sípò ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ. Ìwọ ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ gbogbo adúláwọ̀.
Àwa ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògo adúláwọ̀, ìmọ́lẹ̀ wo ni wọ́kùn lágbára Ọlọ́run. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ò ní bàjẹ́, a máa gbèrú sí ni. Nàìjíríà ò ní dàrú. Ilé wa ọ̀nà wo ní dàrú o, ilé ò ní ilé wa ọ̀nà ní náà wá. Iṣẹ́ wa ọ̀nà àbá mójútó. I loved why the stuff was going on because in Koko Civil and what about the another ethnicities anthem? Nigeria has covered all of us. Yoruba, I have to of the Yoruba nation in Nigeria. So I've covered every other ethnicity with Nigerian anthem. But may God bless you, may God keep you and cause His face to shine upon you. May He be gracious to you. May He bless the work of your hands. May He bless your family. May He bless Nigeria, our country. And may He bless Yoruba land, our nation. Thank you so much for being part of this session. I'll see you again tomorrow at 4 p.m. if your time West African time. Do have a lovely evening. And I'll see you tomorrow. Odaro. Eshe.